Welcome to Sinful's Horror Stories. Tonight's video is about skinwalkers. Many believe these creatures to be true, others are more skeptical. I'll leave it up to you guys. Sit back, relax, stay sinful. Story number 1. This story is submitted by Jen. This is an encounter I had with a skinwalker. Keep in mind, skinwalkers attach themselves to you once they have your scent and will eventually come after you again in time. My name is Jen and I am a 37-year-old female of Navajo descent. When this event took place, I was only 17. This happened in southern Texas on a ranch that was owned by my friend's mom and dad. It was myself, Rayanne, a female, and her boyfriend Dylan. We all decided to get together and have a few beers and have a good time. All was good and fun until the unimaginable happened. All three of us were sitting by the bonfire when I had gotten up to go to the house to use the restroom. Now the house, mind you, is a ways in distance with a wooden bridge going over a lake to get back to the house. No big deal, right? Wrong. As I was walking over the bridge, I looked to my right towards some brush in the wooded area when I see what appeared to be a deer of some sort standing on its back legs, just staring at me. It had to be more than 7 or 8 feet tall. I froze as this thing was peering. It felt like it was peering into my soul with the stare. You know some shit is about to go down, but the fear was coursing through my body and it wouldn't allow me to move. I was halfway back to the house, so in the distance I hear my friend Ryan yell, "Run, Jen!" As I turn around to look at my friends, they were already running to the house, not far behind me. At that time I ran as fast as I could, because I had just had the eerie feeling that we were in danger. We managed to get back to the house trembling and full of fear, hearts pounding, and out of breath from trying to get back into the house. We get inside and thankfully there were 2 rifles in the closet. Dylan and myself grab a rifle and load it. We then crouch behind the island in the middle of the kitchen. By this time, Rayanne is flipping the fuck out, while me and Dylan were waiting for something to happen, guns aimed at the back door. That's when we heard the sound of hooves, but it wasn't like a normal clickety-clack of a deer. It was more like a step than the sound of dragging one of its hind legs. Yes, walking on its hind legs or trying to do so. The smell was a terrible raw meat, dead carcass stench that you would never forget. The sound it made was a snarling sound, was extremely creepy. The front door began to shake as if this thing was trying to get into the house. In my friend's voice, this creature said, "Run, Jen," and began to bang at the door repeatedly. Gripped by fear, minutes felt like hours as we were being held hostage by this creature. Things did settle down eventually, and it never made it inside. But I think if it had really wanted to, it would have. The next morning, all 3 of us went to a Navajo reservation. We were given a coin and told us to always keep the coin with us to ward off any further spirits attached to this creature that the man described as a skinwalker. I still have that coin to this day as a reminder that strange shit can and will happen. Story number 2. My father owns a small delivery service that operates out of Farmington, New Mexico. We mostly deliver small packages out to the middle of nowhere that are too much of a hassle for the large delivery companies to bother with. My dad is the only employee, and we have a few pickup trucks and a trailer. One day we get a delivery out to Window Rock, Arizona, on a Navajo reservation about 2 hours from Farmington. My dad gets a call for the job while he is chilling with his Navajo friend Travis and his girlfriend. Travis mentions now he's got family in Window Rock that he hasn't seen in ages and suggests they go with him. I was 6 or 7 at the time, and it was the summertime. Dad decides we'll go down together. He can do his delivery really quick. Then while Travis sees his family, we can go check out the Window Rock. We had to convoy in separate trucks since my dad was loaded down with freight, We decided to bring along some walkie-talkies so we could communicate with one another. We spend our time in Window Rock. Everything is generally uneventful. We start heading home along the old highway, with my dad and I in front, and Travis and his girlfriend in their truck behind us. I honestly don't remember most of the Window Rock trip, but this next part I can never forget. We're somewhere on the highway between Window Rock and Gallup, New Mexico. It had just rained earlier in the day, and the road was kind of slick, so we were taking it very slow. On the left of the highway there is nothing but sandstone cliffs, and on the right there is a huge field separated from the road by a small barbed wire fence. We crest the top of the hill, and down at the bottom of the hill we see what appears to be a very large dog, sitting back on its haunches in the middle of the road, facing the cliffs. My dad calls over the radio, "Hey Trav, do you see that big-ass dog?" Travis starts yelling back over the radio, "That's not a dog. Speed up right now and hit it." He sounds almost hysterical. He just keeps screaming, "Hit it! You have to hit it! Please, please hit the fucking thing right now!" My dad starts to speed up. As we get closer, I can begin to see it a little more clearly. It's covered in this brown, wiry, matted hair that appears to have dried blood all over it. It's still facing the cliffs, but the moment our headlights hit it, it turns and looks at us. And it has a face. I don't know how else to describe it other than a mix between a bear's and a human's face. It looks twisted and distorted and almost in pain. As we get closer to this thing, we start to realize it's actually fucking huge. Though it was still sitting on its haunches, it is about shoulder height with the hood of the truck. We get literally inches from hitting it when it lets out this scream that sounds like someone screaming as their lungs were filling with water, and it leaps backwards towards the field, landing just on the other side of the barbed wire fence. Then with another leap, it was gone from sight. Travis comes over the radio again. "Holy shit, keep driving. We have to get out of here. We have to go faster." He kept repeating the last part. "We have to get out of here. We have to go faster." Pretty soon we're speeding like crazy. And just as we start to come near the outskirts of Gallup, we get pulled over. Travis pulls his truck over with us. Naturally, this makes a cop, a Navajo man himself, very on edge, and he immediately asks why Travis felt the need to pull over as well. Travis says, "We just saw a skinwalker a few miles back and it's been following us." The officer immediately turns white, stammers something about a verbal warning, gets in his car and takes off. We do the same. We didn't see anything else that night, but when we got home, Travis refused to let us leave without taking some kind of Navajo totem thing that was supposed to keep it away. This is some creepy shit, right? Story number 3. Anyone that has been on the Navajo reservation has either probably heard of some creepy things or have experienced pretty creepy things, namely skinwalkers. I've only seen one. Here's my story. I come from a small town in northern Arizona that's sandwiched between the Pio Reservation to the north and the U.S.'s largest Navajo reservation to the south. My high school being so small, a 1A high school that has on average 80 students enrolled every year, I always had to travel south about 5 to 10 hours on the way to play another high school in any sport. This means that we traveled a lot on the Navajo res, and we also usually stayed at hotels when we would head out to play and come home in the morning, but this trip was a little different. I remember the basketball coach saying that the school didn't have enough money to put up the teams in a hotel that trip, so we were going to be on the road for a total of 12 hours. I was the only male senior to play basketball that season. We just got done playing our game and headed home on our bus, Big Blue. We were headed out and it wasn't long, 2 hours of driving before we entered the res. By this time everyone was asleep, with it being 2 in the morning. When we had crossed the res's border, I noticed the bus driver had sped up and was now going 80 miles an hour. I thought this was a little weird because he never exceeded the speed limit, at least not in my high school career. For some reason, I couldn't fall asleep like the rest of my teammates, so I just sat at the back of the bus staring out across the desolate desert landscape that was lit up by the full moon. As I looked out, I could see a figure running towards the bus at an angle of pursuit and keeping up with the bus at 85 miles an hour. As the figure got closer, I saw that it was a humanoid form. As a matter of fact, it looked exactly like a human, only that the face was painted half black and half white with glowing eyes. Glowing eyes like a rabbit's eyes reflecting light from a spotlight. I immediately thought, holy crap, it's a skinwalker. The skinwalker ran up to the edge of the road and just kept up pace with the bus, hurtling sagebrush and rocks while staring at me. After I made eye contact with the thing, I could not look away. It was as if something was holding my head and eyes in place. The skinwalker just smiled at me, this inhuman smile that went ear to ear, showing crooked, yellow pointed teeth. Felt like I was going to throw up, and I was panicking through the whole ordeal. The skinwalker started to crumble down on all fours, still keeping up with the bus. I could see his bones crack and reform. Hair started appearing all over the body, and in about 3 seconds, it was now a coyote, and it ran off back into the desert, out of view. As soon as it was gone, I ran to the onboard bathroom and puked a mixture of food and blood. I didn't want to tell anyone for the fear they would think I was crazy. I confided in my Navajo friend. She told me that I needed to see the chief, who also happened to be a friend of mine, and get a blessing. I saw him the next day in the parking lot. He just came up to me and mumbled something in Navajo while waving a feathered scepter-looking thing, turned around, got into his truck and drove away. To this day, I haven't seen another skinwalker. It might be due to the fact I moved away from the town and the res. And if I do go down south, I go around, way around. Story number 4. I was a kid when this happened. My uncle and I were finishing up chopping and gathering firewood for my grandmother because it was getting dark. Driving back on a dirt road at 30 miles per hour, I had this awful sense of being watched. Before I could turn to look out my window, my uncle shouted quickly, "Don't!" I completely froze. My heart felt like it was beating out of my chest, then completely stopped when I heard a tap, tap on my window. My uncle sped up and was loudly praying in his native tongue. I don't know what was going on, and thought it was over till our truck suddenly dipped from the bed. My uncle then started saying, "Look at me and don't turn away." Over and over again he said. Then I heard it again, tap, tap, but from the window behind me. It was getting harder for me to breathe and I wanted to cry. A minute or two passed and the truck dipped again. My uncle looked around and sighed. It was quiet besides the truck and the road. He looked at me and said, "We will ask your father to do a prayer in the morning, so the evil will forget our faces." I remember curling up on the seat and just staring at the radio, watching the time, listening to my uncle sing an old prayer until we got back to my grandmother's house. I called my uncle because I had a nightmare about it that night. We talked about it for a while. He said, "I didn't see faces, just eyes, like brake lights you see on the road. It watched you." Before hanging up, I tried joking with him about it. "Why didn't you just step on the brake when it was in the back?" No laughter, just a pause, because it wasn't alone. Story number 5. This all happened 5 years ago. One night, a few of my friends decided, after hanging out, that we'd go on an adventure at about 3 a.m. We took a ride about 50 miles to the old Spanish ruin in New Mexico. that was once the seat of the Inquisition. I can't for the life of me remember what the place is called. We jumped the front gate to the place and started exploring. One of my friends brought a flute with him, and he started playing it. And about 30 seconds into his mediocre playing, something started screaming really, really loud on the tops of the long destroyed walls of the place. It was going from wall to wall very quickly, screaming the most blood-curdling scream you could ever imagine. We noped the fuck out of there. One of my friends pissed his pants. We drove for a few hours to Bandelier National Monument, where we planned to camp out at for the rest of the weekend. We got to Bandelier at 6 or 7 a.m. and set up our camp. After a few hours just talking about what the hell happened at the ruins, I went to take a pee behind probably only 300 feet from our camp. This is where everything starts getting a little fuzzy. I remember seeing 2 dust devils coming my way. When I turned around again, 2 of my friends were there, and they were motioning for me to follow them. I couldn't help but not follow them, like I was being pulled behind them in shackles. I followed them for what seemed like 10 or 15 minutes, and then I snapped out of it. These weren't my friends. They had bright red hair with my friends' faces and cat eyes. Both of these friends were brunette. I stopped walking and they looked at me with probably the most terrifying gaze I'd ever seen. Monsters in movies are nothing compared to this. I turned around and ran as fast as I could back the way I came from. After 5 minutes of a full sprint, I got back to that rock that I pissed at, found our camp. Everyone was there, still sitting around talking. Didn't even notice that I was gone. I told them what happened with the look-alike skinwalkers. We packed up everything and left probably within 10 minutes. Got the hell back to Albuquerque. Thank you guys for watching and listening. Please be sure to leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe for future content. I hope you guys enjoyed this Skinwalker themed video. I've never done a Skinwalker video before, so I hope you guys enjoy the change of pace. Until we meet again, stay sinful.